to the League of Cinephiles. I'm your host, as always, Alex Ulmer, joined by Luke of Luke Reviews and Jack Renault. Guys, for the third time ever, our annual CINEMAWARS Battle Royale is here. We've done it since the very beginning, and we're back to bring you our third one, our biggest CINEMAWARS of the season to celebrate the end of Season 3. Jack, Luke, you guys have been here for a long time. You either, whether competing or hosting, you've been involved in the last two CINEMAWARS Battle Royales. How excited are you to get started tonight?
Well, let's not talk about my place in the first CINEMAWARS, but yes, both CINEMAWARS, I will say, have been very, very exciting and always a thing that gives very exciting moments, hilarious moments usually at that, and it's always a nice kind of event to see just how quick and well-thinking some of these people in our league are, because, you know, CINEMAWARS, we've been doing a lot of trivia recently, so get back into the groove of things with a big splash like CINEMAWARS is definitely going to be a fun time.
Luke, your showings have been great in CINEMAWARS, but you're a veteran of the game. What are your thoughts today?
Well, as a true veteran with my great CINEMAWARS Battle Royale experience, having lasted a maximum of one round exactly. I don't remember. It was the first or second one. No, I lasted one round. I was out in the second one. But that doesn't matter. CINEMAWARS, that's what this channel was originally built on. Sure, we've highlighted the trivia more recently, but as Jack said, we're back with a bang. And what better than the Battle Royale? And
when it comes to the actual format of the match, obviously, because we don't know who's competing, anybody could come into this match. We have our number one entrant, and it is defending his title, Jacob the Package Cunningham, who won in Season 2. He won the Battle Royale in his first ever CINEMAWARS showing. He will look to defend his title in the CINEMAWARS Battle Royale and show through all these different competitors that he is the best to ever step into the debating ring. So we'll see if he can go the full distance like he did last season and defeat all other competitors and retain his title this match. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, he first came into the league as a trivia player, but then decided to try his hand in the Battle Royale. You know, this is essentially kind of an invitational in a way, just get everybody in, see how they do. But he just ended up going on a massacre and ended up knocking out some really, really good CINEMAWARS players and ended up taking it all. So he's definitely made a name for himself in both leagues in the time since, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does today.
And Luke, looking at we haven't shown them in a long time, but look at the faction rankings after the Singles Film Trivia Clash tournament. We mentioned Jacob, who's the defending champion. A lot of points are up for grabs here. Every 3 rounds you survive, you get a point, etc. So Five Angry Men looking to it's going to be a long shot. The commission have been on a roll this season, but possibly they can do it.
Well, one thing's for certain that hasn't changed. The Hungry Bogarts are still very much at the bottom of the table. That is fun to see. But no, I hadn't seen this table in a while, and yeah, it's not super close at the top. But if Jacob can make some gains today, that should make things interesting in the lead up to the season finales.
For sure, guys. And before we actually start the match, Luke, what can everyone do at home?
They can like the video, comment down below, maybe your answers for the prompts, who you think is doing the best, and of course subscribe and turn that bell notification on.
And Luke, this is the last time we'll see you. You will depart us now, but you will be watching the match as it goes on, judging with myself and Jack. See you soon. What are the rules for the CINEMAWARS Battle Royale?
Yes, so there are going to be 5 players in the arena at the same time. Each round there will be a certain movie-related prompt that competitors will each answer from. The order in which competitors state and claim their answers will be randomized each round, and no same answer can be picked per round. You'll have 25 seconds for your opening debate, then we will go into free open debate. Us judges will then decide which competitor to eliminate at the end of each round, and once a player has been eliminated, a new one will take their place in the match.
So, let's get started with the first competitor. First entering the arena at the number 1 spot. He is representing the Five Angry Men. He is a 2-time and current CINEMAWARS champion of the world, Jacob the Package Cunningham.
As if there'd be any other strong choice.
I mean, as soon as Selma said we're bringing back the entrance music, like, there's one answer. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. Great to be back here. You're putting a lot of pressure on me with that intro. At first, I thought I was just coming back to play again, nothing to lose. I'm the champ, but now you've turned this into a whole ass gauntlet. So we'll see how we go. I'm excited to see if any new players can come in and do what I did last year. I don't know if I'm going to win, but if you want to win, I'm going to try and make you earn it.
Let's get to the second competitor.
I just realized what it is.
And entering the arena in number 2 spot. Representing the Cinephiles in Canada. He is Tyler Bad News Banner!
Oh, gentlemen. Jacob.
The big four.
We're back! Back, baby! Oh!
Tyler, how are you doing today?
How you guys doing today?
Very good, very good. Noticing a theme in the apparel we're wearing today, gents. Love to see it. Love to see it.
This
All right,
Bobby
Tyler.
is ready to tear through the competition.
Welcome back to the Battle Royale. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I had a rough week this past week. I won't go into full detail about it, but luckily, the events that happened, didn't ruin how me being here today. And so the fact that I'm going against Jacob right off the bat, I'm excited. I can't wait to see what else is in store for today.
All right, well, let's get to the third competitor. We still have 3 more in this first group of 5. And entering the arena at the number 3 spot, representing the Hungry Bogarts, former CINEMAWARS champion of the world, Tristan! Hey!
How's it going, guys?
Very good, very good. How are you, sir? Good a little bit. Glad to have you back.
Been good. Honestly, I forgot I was CINEMAWARS champion. It's been so long, so I have to try and reclaim that title.
All right, well, let's get to the number 4 entrant.
No one knows how hard I tried. I have feelings that I can't explain.
Entering the arena at the number 4 spot,
All my life been so
representing the Wolfpack, it is Super Sky!
Is it my destiny to live and die a life of blood fragility? I'm just kidding where I see love.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just can Super
I cannot
Arcade.
hear Skipper. Right.
I don't know if he's just. I don't know if he's just.
I don't think you're
I
supposed
was
to.
wondering if it's just me, but
No, I most identify with Alex.
So let's get to the 5th and final competitor from the first group. Entering the arena at the number 5 spot, returning to the League of Cinephiles, Crazy Kyle!
Hey guys.
What's
How are
up,
you?
Kyle? Oh my god, it's been a while.
I know Tristan. It's been so long. We gotta catch up. I haven't talked to
We
you
do.
since like your movie channel got like completely blown up in half.
I know, man. Yeah.
And Brett, we like don't even talk anymore. We're neighbors. We both live in
I was
Orlando now.
about
I
to say,
can't
we
believe
live
that.
like probably 20 minutes away from
And
each other.
Tyler, my old love. It's so nice to see you.
You betrayed me.
before
yeah,
my time, but I know the law. Nice to meet you, Kyle.
Nice to meet you, Jacob. Thank you so much. I'm excited to go against you, but just so you know, I'm gonna win this.
Ooh,
All right.
So
Love it.
this one should be a good match. Homer, thank you for inviting me back. I'm excited to do this. Excited to be here.
Let's go. Let's get with the first prompt, guys. You got to find an answer. It's got to be different from the other answers. We have what film will win Best Picture in 2024?
Oh boy.
Random number generator decides who goes first. You can't have the same answer, so make sure you have a back. We're going with Skipper first.
Okay. Sweet.
Just say your answer.
Oh, just say it? Okay. Oppenheimer.
I will go with Killers of the Flower Moon.
I will go with The Holdovers.
Past lives.
Barbie.
So Oppenheimer is being claimed as Christopher Nolan's best film, kind of his masterwork, as a lot of people say. It is a very timely and relevant movie. It is about the nuclear holocaust that will inevitably end us all. It is a very important movie, and it's a very historical movie. It's a movie that both film fanatics love and your dad's gonna love. And that crossover has definitely won Best Picture in the past for, say, something like Green Book, but this movie's actually good. So that can really propel it to the top.
I'm going with Killers of the Flower Moon for this one, the new Martin Scorsese movie, and I think it's something that we don't usually see a lot from him, especially from previous years. I don't know, I can remember the last time we've really seen Scorsese take on a western, but the narrative the narrative that's focusing on here, the Oklahomers of the Osage County or nation during the 1920s, and talking about how how in the 1920s there's that time where people were moving out west and taking over the land, and of course you got talent behind it, of course Scorsese, and you got DiCaprio, De Niro, Lily Gladstone, Jesse Plemons, and Brendan Fraser, who's coming off an Oscar win.
Right.
So I kind of feel like I'm at a slight disadvantage because I'm the only one who's arguing something that has not been screened yet. But The Holdovers, for me, I think is a very clear shot of winning Best Picture. What are the cornerstones that we need to win Best Picture? Screenplay or director? The Holdovers and Past Lives are really the only two strong competitors right now in original screenplay. Alexander Payne looks like he might get a Best Director nomination for The Holdovers as well. The trailer was classic Oscar bait. It's looking really good. It's looking like it could win. We know based on its private screening at TIFF last year that it's brought a big bidding war, so the studios are very confident that it's going to be really good and have a really good chance of winning the Oscar. And obviously Alexander Payne.
Okay, I think Past Lives, I think you've got to look at the type of films that have been winning Best Picture in recent years, and I think Past Lives ticks so many boxes for that. They've taken a pivot to more smaller, adult-driven films that are representing people and giving people a strong emotional reaction, which is super important. It's a known quantity. We know how much people love it. Coming out early in the year isn't a barrier anymore. Everything Everywhere All at Once did it, and everybody who's seen this film is intensely emotionally affected by it.
Everything Everywhere All at Once just won Best Picture. It's a completely unconventional film, and I think they're going to go with another one, Barbie, which is not your typical Oscar contender, but I think it's tackling so many relevant issues. It's taking really unique perspectives, and I think it's going to create a conversation that people are going to continue to have until Oscar time. And I think it's something that could get SAG nominations. We could see the cast really, going out there and getting nominations here. So I feel like it's going to be one that's going to be talked about until the end of the year. And it's really tackling a lot of relevant themes.
All right. Whenever you're ready, just free debate.
Jacob, I want to start with what you said, because I think that perfectly represents the Holdovers. It's kind of in line with what we've seen recently with recent Best Picture winners, these family-oriented, smaller stories, Coda, Everything Everywhere. What one prior? Parasite, these family-oriented stories. And I think the Holdovers will have that kind of inline comedy, but also have that serious dramatic element. And Tristan, with you with Barbie, I truly just, as much as I love Barbie, I gave Barbie a very positive review when I just saw it, but I just don't see it happening. Maybe it gets an adapted screenplay nom. Maybe Ryan Gosling can pull out a supporting actor win at the most. But to say it's going to win Best Picture, I don't even know if Greta Gerwig can even pull off Best Director. And I think she should, because I think her directing was amazing in Barbie. But I just don't know if the Academy would go for something like that. And then also, I would also need to think about, assuming that they don't delay anything, would Warner Bros. Even make that their primary concern when they're campaigning? Because obviously they have Dune Part 2 and they have The Color Purple.
Exactly.
There's also kind of a hesitation on Color Purple and Dune because we don't even know if they'll come out this year at this point.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to mention them, but
yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Not to defend Barbie here, since it's not my category. But what I'll say is
You're a big Barbie enjoyer, though.
A lot of issues that the Academy is going to feel good for supporting. Again, very similar to Green Book, very similar to my choice, Oppenheimer. They like to go for movies that make them feel like, oh, look, we're not sexist or we're not racist, yada, yada, yada. And I think Barbie's definitely going to appeal to that sensibility. It's a broad satire in the way that Adam McKay movies have been. Tyler, Martin Scorsese's already won the Oscar. And if you look through Oscars history, they don't like to double dip on that. They really don't. There's very few directors that have gotten Best Picture twice or Best Director twice. Christopher Nolan hasn't done that yet. and he is known to be maybe one of our best modern day filmmakers, making a movie that's getting the best reviews of his career. So I just think it's a hard thing to bet against.
I guess I'll just jump in on the holdovers. I mean, my point against that, you kind of said in your own argument, you said it's Oscar bait. I think these days they can smell the Oscar bait. You know, the Belfast, the Fablemans type movies aren't really winning anymore. They can smell it. It's something I would similarly say to Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm not calling that movie Oscar bait. God, no, I'm very excited for it. But I think it's the juggernaut, big contender that you would look at the start of the year and say, oh, that's going to win. It's rarely winning these days. It's running out of steam and it's getting pipped by something smaller like a Coda or an Everything Everywhere or a Past Lives this year. Oppenheimer, I mean, I have to jump against the two films on my shirt right now, but you know, loving doesn't equate to Oscars. Oppenheimer, I think it's a pretty strong shot, but I think what a point against it is that it doesn't leave you feeling remotely good. Not that Past Lives leaves you feeling great, but Oppenheimer is seriously, you're going to have an existential crisis after that movie, and not in a good way. They're not giving it to these dour movies. They like to, the thing that brings together the most broad appeal with votes is the stuff that leaves you feeling somewhat hopeful and good at the end. And Oppenheimer does the exact opposite of that. And Barbie, again, I mean, after Everything Everywhere, I don't think we can bet against any kind of movie, but I just went and watched it a second time tonight, and it was a packed house and a lot of older people in the audience, and none of them were laughing. None of the older audiences got the jokes, and the Academy, as much as we'd like to think it doesn't, it does still skew pretty old, and I think that there will be a lot of people who just kind of don't really get it.
Yeah, so I think that the one thing that stands out for me the most is like just is Barbie. I mean, I saw Barbie last night, and I did enjoy it. But at the same time, I don't think I don't know if it's best picture quality, just because there are some themes in the movie that are making people scratch my head. I know it did for me, and I think I don't know if that will sit well with Academy voters. Holdovers. I mean, as much as I love to see Alexander Payne, someone from my home state, get that love, I don't think that that'll be the case again, especially in the climate that we're social climate we're living right now. He's had some politics, brought forward about him, and I think that will that might carry into his next movie. I mean, it did with a few other directors in the past. As for Oppenheimer, I do believe that this could be the closest we could get to Christopher Nolan, being a best picture winner, being a best picture winner. However, I mean, if we're going to look at what it's all standing for, I mean, it's the message is kind of unclear. You got some people who are looking at it as, this is an American achievement. We did this, but at the same time, you get that weight of yes, we achieved this, but but at what cost?
I think in recent years, the Academy has gone more for narratives, and for the film, Best Picture has kind of equaled the defining film of the year rather than what is the best film of the year. And I think this year has really been defined by the whole Barbenheimer thing, or Barbenheimer. Like, people are really going out and supporting these two movies. And the thing with Barbie, it tackles so many themes. It's a movie that I think people are going to talk about until the end of the year. And it's such an achievement. It's one that's going to have a lot of below the line support. And I know the humor does skew younger, but so did Everything Everywhere. That movie was very lowbrow in some instances. And that still got the older audiences out. I think what really helps is Barbie has a very emotional third act. And I think people are going to leave that theater feeling really impacted. With some of the other movies, especially The Holdovers, I think that's very old fashioned. That's the kind of movie that would win in the 90s, but it's not a film that does anything new. And they're looking for something that's going to change the industry, not one that's going to bring it back 10 years. And then Past Lives, I mean, it's a great movie, but I just feel that one doesn't have much of a narrative. It feels more like a screenplay winner, but I just don't see the narrative around it. I think the narratives this year really are between Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie, and Oppenheimer. But Barbie just feels so radical and so outlandish, and they've been going for things like that recently. And I feel like after Everything Everywhere All at Once, they're going to go for another film that's defining the year and that people are talking about. This movie's making a ton of money, and it's got so much on its mind, and I feel like the Academy are really going to go for it.
So the person we decided to eliminate, unfortunately, is Tyler Bad News Banner. Unfortunately. Sorry, Tyler, any final words?
Well, that's the end of season 3. Did you boys do? Best luck to you all going forward.
Good to see you, Tyler.
All right, Tyler.
You made
See
the
you.
big four right again
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
day.
Can my points go to
Always a
Cinema Files
pleasure.
in Paradise if I win? My
No.
old team? No?
4 left as we get to the number 6 entrant. Entering the arena at the number 6 spot. Representing the Watchers. He is the former CINEMAWARS champion of the world. McNeil Mulligan. McNeil, you haven't been here in a long time, but you're back. How are we feeling today?
Rusty.
All right, well, let's get to that prompt. We have, what underrated director make more movies?
I'm going to go with Sean Baker.
I'm gonna go with Jeff Nichols.
David Lowery.
Robert Eggers.
James Gray.
So Sean Baker is a director that I really love. The Florida Project is one of my favorite films. Red Rocket is one of my favorite movies of last year. Scarlet and Tangerine are two of my favorite indie projects to really come out. And I feel like he has struggled to break into the mainstream and be a director with that widespread appeal that everyone seems to love. And that's usually due to I feel like most of that's due to the subject matter because he does a lot of sex work films, like films that relate to somehow to sex work. But I do feel like he's a director that deserves that mainstream appeal. And I feel like in a lot of his projects, they have this emotional sensibility that really does impact me.
Jeff Nichols is a director who was really instrumental to me when I was a teenager getting into film. And I've been thinking about him a lot this year as someone who I wish got behind the camera more, because he's got a film upcoming finally called The Black Riders. But he did Shotgun Stories, Take Shelter, Mud, Midnight Special, and Loving. And he's only made 5 films over a 15-year career. And Loving was about 7 years ago. And it was one that was sort of on the cusp of maybe being an Oscar contender.
David Lowery is probably my favorite filmmaker working right now. I think his filmography is so diverse. He can make a movie for Disney and make the best movie Disney has made within the last 10 years. And then go to A24 and make The Green Knight, which I think was probably the best movie of the year it came out. It was just this wonderful existential dream. He has such a diverse filmography, yet his themes are so him. And he has this idea of making everything intimate and wonderful. Even like A Ghost Story is this wonderful meditation.
So Robert Eggers, people know him for The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman. They're all very niche movies, but everybody that is in his fan base really loves those movies. And I think because of how diverse some of these movies have gotten, especially with The Northman, that I think if he were given a bigger budget and maybe worked with a drama that were more wide-ranging, then maybe I think a lot of people could really like his movies that would put him on the map, especially after Nosferatu. If that happens after that remake, which I think would make him even higher on the charts.
It boggles my mind that James Gray isn't bigger than he is. He has worked with so many great actors over the years and has been completely consistent since The Yards came out in 2000. And he's shown that he's such a diverse filmmaker. He can do big blockbusters like Ad Astra that are a little more cerebral. He can do coming-of-age films. He can do period pieces. And he brings something unique to all of those. He's just a really interesting creative voice.
I've noticed something in common between David Lowery and James Gray. Not that they make bad movies, but I think a lot of people, especially in the general audience, have a hard time appreciating movies like A Ghost Story from David Lowery, or even like Ad Astra from, even though I love that movie, but a lot of people really struggle to sit through those really slow paced movies, and those directors tend to lean towards those narratives. And I think a lot of people in the general audience would have a hard time trying to go into something like that. And I think those directors may not have the ability to take on something that's a bigger budget.
I could say the same thing about Robert Eggers. I saw The Northman with a group of coworkers. There was 15 of us, and I was the only person in that group that liked that movie. Everyone's like, why did you take us to go see this? It's violent, it's grotesque, it's weird, it's slow. I really do think that you could make the same argument. Meanwhile, someone like David Lowery, he adapted medieval mythology. That is something that there is a huge market for. No matter what you think of The Green Knight, if he took that type of sensibility and made it like the Chronicles of Narnia or Percy Jackson, it would go over incredibly well. He's just adapting very old literature.
Also, I think there's something humorous about you saying that you think Robert Eggers should have a bigger budget. Northman was $90 million.
Yeah.
Most directors, none of the directors on our list have even made a movie close to that.
Yeah.
The Green Knight was made on a budget of $15 million. Sean Baker's highest budget movie is $5 million. I don't know what more you want Robert Eggers to get in a budget?
Also, I think Eggers' best film was much lower budget than The Northman, so maybe he shouldn't. And I guess jumping on that, I would just say I don't think Robert Eggers is underrated at all. That guy, you could argue maybe that The Northman is underrated, but overall, he is so beloved by this sort of and all these directors are directors who sort of appeal to the cinephile crowd. But Robert Eggers especially is like a big name. I know people who aren't interested in movies who know Robert Eggers by name and get excited for his films and stuff. David Lowery, I think he's actually quite prolific. Since 2016, he's made films with like at most 3-year gaps and sometimes only 1 or 2 year gaps, like Ghost Story, straight into Pete's Dragon, straight into Old Man and the Gun. And you know, he doesn't always nail it. I would put him and James Gray in the sort of same categories. They make very, very muted films. A lot of their films are very good, but they don't sort of always hit, and they're sort of just playing their own games.
Yeah, I would also say that David Lowery is also one of the few people who have really broken into the mainstream higher budget filmmaking. They've like,
he's got that Disney bag, you know. He'll keep making films.
Yeah, but do his Disney movies ever get many eyes on them? Nobody talks about Pete's Dragon. Nobody talks about Peter Pan and Wendy. That's
There's
still
a
an
reason,
underrated
though.
director.
The way I understand this question is which one of these directors should have a bigger platform. And I think the one that really sticks out like a sore thumb here is Robert Eggers. Horror is like one of the biggest genres right now, and people who are even outside of the cinephile community know horror, even a little bit on the more artsier side. And that's a name people know. Like, people went out and saw The Northman. That's not an underrated director. He's one of the most acclaimed and biggest filmmakers working today. And then when you look at David Lowery, he has had those opportunities. I mean, he's done Disney films and they just haven't really worked out for him. So I don't think that giving him a bigger platform and more exposure is really going to do anything for him.
I get what you guys are saying about Robert Eggers and his filmography being more noticeable, but I think for the general audience, most people don't pay attention to the director name if it isn't somebody like Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve or whoever. I think if somebody like a studio gave Robert Eggers the budget over $100 million, I'd forgotten The Northman was 90 million. But if they gave him something that was like a lot of money and they gave him like a movie that, I'm not going to say Pirates of the Caribbean, but something in that fantasy realm where he could take it edgier and maybe do something PG-13, then maybe something like that could make his name even more known and stand up with some of those other directors that are on a tier above him.
All right, so the person we decided to eliminate from the match is unfortunately going to be McNeil Mulligan.
I didn't get Jeff Nichols, so
Still, the same 4 is in the match. Jacob, Tristan, Kyle, and Skipper surviving 2 rounds each as we get to the 5th player in this group. Entering the arena at the number 7 spot, representing the Cinephiles in Paradise, Mark with a movies.
My man.
Traditional trivia player, one of the best in the league, the former champion. First time in CINEMAWARS. Mark, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Should be fun to do this for the first time.
We have this round. What is the best movie of the 2020s thus far?
Ooh.
Oh, baby.
Babylon.
I guess I'll go with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I'll go with Nomadland.
Wow. Skipper.
I got a good argument.
Good luck.
I'm gonna go drive my car.
Drive my car?
I'll go as worst person in the world.
Okay, Babylon, if you know me, you know that is a very special film to me. I saw it 8 times in cinemas, and I think it's just my favorite films are the ones that get you excited about the art form, and it's a film that manages to tell such a damning tale of an exploitative industry while still being a love letter to the art form. When I watched it, I felt like I was watching a movie again for the first time, and it reminded me of why I go to the movies, and it's so reflective of the current cinema landscape and how things will keep changing, and it's cyclical, and I think come 10 years from now, it's going to be looked back on as one of the most defining, best, and underrated films of the 2020s.
It took a concept which was the multiverse and made it, I mean, appealing to even casuals with the way it tackled immigration and just the just like the working class, you know, they own the laundromat, the Oscar success, the fact that it could win seven Oscars in this landscape when most movies win 3 to 4 Oscars nowadays, and just the amazing performances, and I feel it's going to be an influential movie. Plus, it gave.
It's hard to pinpoint one movie that should be considered the best, but when we talk about what's going to define the 2020s, there's two films, Everything Everywhere and Nomadland. Nomadland just encapsulates everything that humanity has gone through within the past few years because of COVID and isolation, and it's such a deep and cerebral film. It's got a phenomenal performance from Frances McDormand, and it's just a film full of emotion that I feel like really encapsulates what it's like to be human in the 2020s.
To quote Roger Ebert, movies are a machine that generate empathy. Apologies for saying that. But regardless, Drive My Car is the most empathetic movie of the 2020s. There's not a single other movie that has shown kind of how art and this man's play can reflect his own life and sensibilities. This is a movie that is able to take its time and bring in just stunning environments and beautiful conversations about life and why we're here and why we ache and why we pain. And some of these other films are fun and get to that point maybe a little quicker. This is the one that like dives into it.
When I talk about worst person in the world, I feel the exact same way. I don't know if there's been a movie in the past decade that I've personally connected to more than worst person in the world. If it was a representation of how I feel as a young man in my 20s, and especially from how how Trier portrays it from his point of view through the eyes of this young woman, it makes me, just recognize my own placement in the world and our own placement when we're discussing our themes and our empathy and our knowns and our.
I understand that like some of these movies probably have a higher profile, but that's not what I consider as the best. The best movie is the one that has the most clear and concise vision and is able to execute that vision. And I think Drive My Car out of all of these films is that movie. And these other movies are fantastic, but they are more friendly to aesthetic, and they're more friendly to getting the audience's attention. But whenever we look at the best films of all time, we look at movies that sight and sound like Janine Delman, these like really long 3.5 hour films about this woman cooking, but people resonated with it because they understand kind of that pathos.
Right, I think that's kind of a stereotypical view to look at it. I don't think the best movie needs to be a 3 hour long film that's slow and drawn out. I love Drive My Car. I think it's one of the best adapted screenplays that we've had this decade thus far. But every other movie tackles that emotions just as well. I'm telling you, when I watched The Worst Person or when I watched Babylon, the emotions that I felt from those characters were emotions that really impacted me. And I don't know if saying that, just because Drive My Car has this kind of overarching landscape and we're more aesthetically pleasing, I think Drive My Car is an aesthetically pleasing film too. But I think all of our films have something equal and something separative that we have that can impact our, our own emotional impact when we watch a movie.
What movies at the end of the decade are going to be considered the best? And it's usually going to be the films that push cinema forward or ones that define how we as a society operated within that decade. And I feel like Nomadland does both because first of all, it just encapsulates like everything that we've been going through, but also I think the way that it highlights on like an older woman's journey, I feel like that's something that we hadn't seen a lot of. And I feel like it's just got so much depth and that character has just so much to her. And I feel like that's a film that like, look, I'm in my 20s. Yeah, I was able to really connect to that. And there's a lot to it. When you look at a movie like Babylon, that's the one that stands out to me here, where yes, it's operating on like a big scale and it's doing a lot, but I feel like that film lacks an emotional depth that the other films here have.
I'll jump in since you just said Babylon lacks emotional depth. 9 viewings in, I'm still crying my eyes out at the end. And I know, again, this question is so subjective and it's so difficult, but I think if you've ever been in love with film or making film, I think it's a film that makes you feel a part of it. So it's very much a film that is in conversation with cinema history, past and present. And I think it may end up being one of the last films of its kind. It didn't do well. And, I think we need these crazy madman directors executing their giant visions, be damned whether critics like it or not. I would say Drive My Car. I love that a film like that was so successful, but it does feel like a little bit of a flash in the pan for me. And I wasn't really affected by that film. And I am the target audience. I love that foreign shit and that sad indie shit. But that film I actually preferred Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy when it comes to Hamaguchi. But it's a good film, but I don't think it's a film that people are going to come back to a lot, aside from probably Brett. I mean,
yeah, I was about
and
to
worse,
say.
I mean, that might be the case with me in Babylon being alone too. But Worst Person, I think, is similar in that it's maybe just 15 minutes too long. It's a film that I loved when I saw it, but I haven't felt all these films besides Babylon and probably Everything Everywhere, I haven't felt that compelled to come back to and rewatch multiple times. And I think that's key in a film, having longevity and being remembered.
With everything, it's just like many of you guys said, like when it pushes a narrative like that we're gonna think about. Like I feel like this is the given everything it tackled, the way it tackled the multiverse, which is just going to becoming so much popular. It's like what's going to be in people's mind throughout the whole decade. And I feel this movie did it better than any Marvel movie. And it resonated so well with people that don't even like that type of movie. With Nomadland is a great movie, but it's not one that anybody's going to revisit because it's just like, it has like a documentary feel. Babylon is great, but it's also very divisive because a lot of the nations, the way it tackles drugs, and just some people are tired of old Hollywood movies with the worst person in the world. I liked it, but it felt like basically a foreign version of a Richard Linklater movie. And then with Drive My Car, is like as good as it is. It was one of my top 3s of that year. Just a 3-hour movie that's mostly talky. Is for us cinephiles, it'll work, and it's like in the sense like it's not a movie I'll revisit very often unless the director has a new movie coming out.
All right, so the person we decided to eliminate from the match is going to be, unfortunately, you just got here, Merc with the movies. Merc, you want to invest in trivia? I didn't have the same success here, but thanks again for showing up and playing. One of our judges mentioned it. He suggested a podcast between you four with a special guest fifth person every episode.
Well, yeah, we've got another big four, just like last year.
Yeah.
But yes,
I know.
all three. That's 3 rounds, so 1 point for each of your factions, and Kyle with honorary Cinephiles in Paradise bracket point.
Yeah, Kyle, you can join the Hungry Bogarts. We need to.
No, please. I would love to be on a team with Tristan.
The Cinephiles don't want him, I think.
All right, let's get to the number 8 entrant. Entering at the number 8 spot. It is Alexander Robinson. With the number 9 entrant, Godzilla.
Hey, everyone.
Robbins, you're back. You were in our trivia free-for-all earlier in the season. How are you feeling in today's CINEMAWARS free-for-all?
Terrified, but I'm here. I am here by choice. The Godzilla theme is roaring me in, so let's do this. No, let it keep playing.
Which genre or subgenre needs to make a comeback?
I want to go with satirical comedies.
Screwball comedies.
Hangout movies.
Westerns.
I'm going to go with the wrong man thrillers.
So a satire is a comedy that is kind of poking fun and dissecting social norms in that sense. And we just had a movie come out like 2 days ago called Barbie. It's a masterpiece and it's perfect. I don't call like the comeback just like one movie. Like this is something that should consistently happen. And one thing that I have found kind of problematic about people's dissection of Barbie is everyone like, oh, this is too broad. Oh, this is too obvious. Oh, it's just failing me. When it's like, these are what these movies have always done back to the times of Mel Brooks. That's something that was so nice about that movie was the fact that it didn't have to be all sly and cynical. It could just be very forward thinking about its comedy and its themes. And I wish that movie would come back. And I think if the success of Barbie has shown anything, it is that people are striving for a broad comedy like that again.
I've been crying out for years for comedies to really make a return to theaters, and I think screwball comedies are a particular version of it that hasn't been around for a while. That's sort of, when you think of screwball, you think of like the 30s and 40s, things like His Girl Friday, Bringing Up Baby, Fast Talking, Katharine Hepburn stuff, Some Like It Hot. And I think many comedies now feel the need to throw in other elements. They'll throw in a subgenre like action or something, but these are just straight up Joker minute comedies, which I think would be such a riot to see in a theater with an audience. The last real good one I can think of was from like the 70s, What's Up, Doc, with Barbara Streisand. Like, just imagine someone like Ryan Gosling in one of these movies.
Yeah, hangout movies are to me one of the essential genres, and what I loved about hangout movies from the old days, not even like old days, but even like the 90s, like Clerks or Big Lebowski, is that they just have this certain vibe to them. You watch a hangout movie and you know what you're getting. When you watch Easy Rider, you know what you're on the ride for. It's not these essentially plot-driven films. It's just a movie where you can sit down with some friends and just watch a movie and just chill and have a blast.
So I went with the Wrong Man thrillers, sort of like what defined Alfred Hitchcock's career back in the day. Pretty much an everyday person that anyone can relate to, just caught in the wrong situation, the wrong time, and has to try to get out of this situation before they end up getting in trouble by the law. Or like a movie like Die Hard. That's essentially a wrong man movie as well. John McClane's in the wrong place at the wrong time. And again, it's a genre, it's a subsection that can span across different genres, and anybody could relate to it.
Westerns were obviously one of the most popular genres back in the day, from the 40s to the 60s. There were a lot of great ones that came out. But when we look back on that genre, it had a lot of macho stereotypes, and it was very much one thing. And I think that's why Westerns have kind of taken a backseat to other genres. But I'd really like to see another wave of Westerns that kind of tackle gender roles and take on new themes and take the genre that was really popular back then and bring it into the modern world. I think, there's so many directors right now that could take on this genre.
A hangout movie, I mean, like, I would consider Once Upon a Time in Hollywood a hangout movie, and that was like one of the most successful movies of 2019. I would consider Licorice Pizza a hangout movie in its most classic sense, and that movie did so incredibly well. And the Wrong Man thriller, I mean, technically you could count Shrek. You know what I mean? Like, as dumb as that sounds, like, there's a lot of, like, you could take the Wrong Man thriller, and there's a lot of wrong men in different movies, What my satire point is the idea of, like, this is a very broad, specific subgenre that I think probably only Adam McKay is doing up to this point, and Greta Gerwig. But now, as we see that there is a market for it, I think it's time for the comeback for these movies to make it in within the pop culture, because obviously there is a big market for it. I don't think there's a huge market for Westerns right now. And Westerns died out for the reasons superhero movies will eventually die out. People got sick of them. They got sick of the trends. They got sick of the motifs. They got sick of all of it because it was the same thing over and over again. And that would eventually happen again. There is so much you can do within the world of the satire.
Yeah, no, Brett, be serious. Okay, come on. Like, we have a lot of satire movies. Like
Triangle of Sadness last year.
Triangle of Sadness, The Menu, Bodies. Like,
those
like,
are satires.
Are you you don't think
they have
Bodies is a satire?
Them. They have some clever commentary, but I'm talking about satire. I'm talking about books. I'm talking the only person I would say is doing
parody
movies. Adam
movies.
McKay. Like, this is not. That's just. There's satirical stuff in movies, but this is broad satire. That's what I.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with satires, there are certainly movies out there like Don't Look Up, and I don't. And even though this is not a comedy, Shin Godzilla was very much a satire on Japanese politics when it came out. So I think it's one of these instances where audiences just don't want to see things that remind them of the real world, considering that things that happen in the real world are pretty much satires themselves. Like, why do we need movies based on this?
So we can laugh at them and grow from that.
Yeah, but
it is. Yeah.
I don't think you can laugh at these anymore.
If satire comedies make a full comeback, we'll start getting shit like Epic Movie again. Nobody wants that.
No, but the thing is, like, what I'm saying is, like, hangout movies aren't nearly as broad as you think they are. Like, I can only think of a few, like, true pure hangout movies that we've gotten in the past, like, 5 years. Like, a few. I'm being dead at. Like, Licorice Pizza and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are great, but, like, let's not pretend like they were, like, solely hangout movies. You watch Licorice Pizza and you watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood because there's things going around, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has a very straight plot of what we're doing at the end of that movie. And with satire films, and with satire films, I don't think that there's a lack of satire movies. I think that we have enough for what we get by. I can think of Sorry to Bother You. I can think of The Lobster. I can think of multiple satire films. Maybe they're not pure satires, but they're more satire enough than what you're deciding as a hangout movie in the context that you're saying it.
This question, they're asking what deserves a comeback, what genre deserves a comeback, and for that, I think that genre had to have some dominance at some time, and satires have just been scattered throughout. And same with hangout movies. Was there ever a time where hangout movies were in? I don't think so. And
as long as Richard Linklater has a career, we will always have hangout
let's be
movies.
honest.
We've gotten a lot of great ones, and there's never been a time where hangout movies were better than what's coming out right now. And the thing with satire, I mean, Adam McKay is doing it. There's Ruben Östlund. There's so many filmmakers, and I've heard criticisms with people getting a little annoyed with that style and wanting less of satires. To be honest,
Well, I'm
Tristan,
talking
there's
about
no way that
broad
you would say that
satire, broad-
mid-90s.
I even said I think satirical comedy. It fixed that if I didn't, but I think. But like what I'm talking about is not like a movie with social satire in it. I'm talking about a movie that is a broad comedy, a broad satirical comedy, like the way that Mel Brooks used to make.
But that's that's kind of what satire is in a way. And the thing with
that's not Triangle Sadness. That's not
Triangle
a menu.
Sadness.
These
It's
are
a
different
comedy.
things. These
I mean,
aren't broad comedy.
it is a
What-
satirical comedy.
Well, the thing is, like, we do have a handful of satirical films that people have seen and talk about. With the genre I picked, The Wrong Man. When was the last time you saw a movie? Is there any movie like that in this century? Or at
But
least,
is
like,
that a genre, or is that just
it's pretty
It
much.
seems like it's a theme. I don't even know if
it's not a
is that like a
genre.
subgenre? Like how many Wrong Man films?
It's mostly
were,
like
in
it
the
can
Hitchcock
mostly be.
My man wants to
associated
bring Alfred Hitchcock back from the dead.
I'd love that, but
No,
it's
but
not
like,
a-
I
it's
wanna
not a
be-
I mean,
genre.
But
Well,
Alfred
I mean,
Hitchcock's not a genre.
I mean, let me say this: his movies usually were thrillers, and a lot of his themes were like the wrong guy at the wrong time, like North by Northwest, just a regular advertising exec who gets caught up in a government conspiracy, has no idea what's going on. He has to clear his name. Like that's something I can't think of an instance where we've had a thriller like that in a way, and. Again, being that it's something that anybody could relate to.
All right, so the person we decided to eliminate, unfortunately, part of the Big Four, it was Skipper Scott for the answer, satirical comedy. It was very close. This is by far the closest round thus far, but Skipper, we unfortunately decided to eliminate you, despite really liking your
hated
argument.
my answer. I don't even know why I said it.
You got ganged up a bit
I want to
there,
say that I
but you
told it, so I
defended well.
made it. It was a really dumb answer, so you guys are good.
I'm surprised
So
I
our first
survived that.
huge elimination, one of the Big Four, one of the people at the beginning of the match, Skipper Scott has been eliminated, which means we are still Jacob, Tristan, Kyle here since the beginning, and Mr. Robinson being the first person to survive a round against these three men. So let's get to the ninth entrant. Making his League of Cinephiles debut, Sam Glassman.
Hey everyone!
What pre-existing MCU or DCU character deserves a feature film spin-off?
God.
And this has to be something that is yet to be announced.
I'm going with Hawkman.
Goose the cat.
I'm going with Lila, aka the Scarlet Scarab.
I'm going with Howard the Duck.
Yes. Oh, that's fantastic.
Jacob.
Okay, you guys went way more obscure. Like, is Rocket Raccoon allowed?
Yeah.
So Hawkman's probably one of DC's most underutilized characters because he's a very convoluted background, but he basically is a character that reincarnates over and over again throughout history, and he's an archaeologist constantly rediscovering the world and whatnot. So I feel like it's really interesting that you could have a story that takes place in contemporary time and basically has to uncover a mystery through his past lives and also find the love of his life, who also reincarnates Shaira Hall as Hawkgirl.
All right, so with Captain Marvel, that was a movie that people were not really big on, but the one thing I think everyone came away from was that Goose the Cat was a pretty iconic character. And with Marvel becoming so entangled and so many storylines and people kind of jumping off board, you need something that's a little irreverent, a little silly, a little fun to draw people back in. Have a Goose the Cat show, have Goose, hang out with Nick Fury, go on adventures. It's something a little different that is going to draw people in, and you don't need to watch the rest of the Marvel stuff.
With Scarlet Scarab, Layla was such a really neat character in Moon Knight. She pretty much gave me a Marion vibe from Raiders of the Lost Ark. That actress, May Calamway, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. like she's shown to be super talented, and I think there's a lot more you could do with Mark Spector's wife and the avatar of Tauret. I think that's how you pronounce the giant hippo name.
I'm a decent sized MCU fan. I like some of them. I have seen Howard the Duck, the 1980s version, and I think that movie is awful, but I love it. And what I think that MCU has lacked in recent years specifically is the fish out of water story. I think only Thor, and maybe if you consider it Winter Soldier, is the only fish out of water story. I think there's a lot of
Captain
potential
Marvel?
for a. Is it? I don't know if I consider Captain Marvel a fish out of water.
I'd count
story.
Captain Marvel as a fish out of water story in a
Okay,
way.
then Captain Marvel as well. But like, I think there's a lot of potential for a duck coming to Earth and just like having his own adventure and having a fun story, especially in the broad context of what we have in MCU. And I think maybe you can even throw in some of the Guardians. We know he has some ties to them.
Okay, I think Rocket Raccoon has always kind of been an emotional through line of the Guardians films, and I think that there's still, I know he got a big character arc in the new one, but I think there's still so much for him to uncover. We've done his backstory, but now he is essentially the leader of the Guardians, and I think the Guardians are done. James Gunn's not coming back, but I think there's so much you could explore with Rocket Raccoon. He's maybe the most rich character in the MCU, and I think now that he has sort of embraced his role as hero and who he is as a raccoon, I would love to see a new adventure from him.
Yeah, so Jacob, I want to...
Sorry, you go ahead.
Thank you. Jacob, I want to start with you because I don't know if they would ever do a solo Rocket Raccoon movie. I think that's like...
I don't think they'd ever do a solo Howard the Duck movie.
Yeah, well...
I don't know. I wouldn't
now.
But like,
you know what?
I think that one specifically, I think that would always work better as just Rocket leading the Guardians. I don't know if we need a solo Rocket movie. I don't know if they would ever do that.
Yeah, I think a lot of criticisms people had of Guardians 3 was that Rocket wasn't in it enough. I think he absolutely could carry him.
But that movie was also
that movie is about
Raccoon.
Rocket.
Yeah, that was Rocket's film. That was his moment. And I
Yeah.
feel like the great thing about the Guardians is the dynamic between all the characters. And yeah, there's a bunch of new characters now, and Rocket is going to be like the central focus, but I don't think we need like a solo Rocket movie.
And I will say with
think-
Howard the Duck,
yeah,
in defense of Howard the Duck, if it took 30 years for them to finally for Hollywood to work up the courage to make a new Super Mario Brothers movie, then I think we can work up the courage to bring Howard the Duck back in the spotlight.
I will say-
Exactly. I think that would be a fun chance.
Howard the Duck is a bit raunchy, and I don't know if it's going to necessarily work within the context of the MCU.
Well, I mean,
Not
they're
with
making
Disney.
R-rated movies now. Isn't Blade and Deadpool 3 going to be R-rated? We can
True.
do
Wait,
R-rated.
wait,
get
wait,
this
wait,
thing how
Way
those
that hard,
go,
but they're
though.
they want to avoid doing that as much as possible. Deadpool's the only exception because it's already a pre-established brand. Blade, they're rebooting it, so they're probably going to bring it back down to the general MCU level.
I think depending on how Deadpool succeeds. For me,
Even if they make Blade.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue with the MCU and all superhero movies right now is they kind of feel they follow a pattern. The reason I went with Lila Scarlet Scarab is because Moon Knight had a great Indiana Jones vibe. It had some familiar superhero elements to it, but that adventure feeling that you got from Indiana Jones or even the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies would make the genre fresh. And there was a lot with her character that could be explored, like how she met Mark Spector, what got her into archaeology and her Egyptian past.
But frankly, I felt like she was the least interesting character in the show. You have, Moon Knight himself, which is just this interesting concept of dual personalities, and then you also have Ethan Hawke's character where he just hams it up the whole entire time.
See, I thought Ethan Hawke was one of the least memorable villains in the entire series. He just felt he only was charismatic in the the death state where he was the psychiatrist. He as a villain, he didn't really.
Those were the only good episodes.
Yeah. Well, Alexander.
Yeah.
If I can, I don't know if a Layla show would ever have the broad appeal that any of these would. Like, I think Howard the Duck, Goose, Rocket are all no names. Sam, what did you pick again? You picked Hawkman? Okay, first of all, did anyone even like Hawkman and Black Adam? But I'll get to you later.
Honestly, forgot he was even in it. So
I was like,
I thought
completely related to that.
Yeah.
Look, I defended Howard the Duck. I'm going to attack him now.
I'm so sorry.
People remember Howard the Duck because of that awful George Lucas film. So he's
And
not
you don't
really
think Kevin Feige
in a
could do better?
positive light. Huh?
He's a punchline.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
now characters know him from Endgame. They know him from his little cameo in both Guardians and Guardians 3.
I
He
guarantee-
has some.
I guarantee you, nobody remembers him from Endgame.
He had like a little brief cameo.
You have to pause to see it.
That silliness that you would get with a Howard the Duck movie, I think you would get with a Goose show, but I think Goose wouldn't have the baggage that Howard the Duck has, because that movie's truly awful and it's aged poorly. Whereas Goose, you could do that same kind of silly thing, but bring it to a show and bring in characters from the MCU like Nick Fury and Captain Marvel, and I think it would be a really fun idea. And
there's lots of characters that have aged poorly. There's lots of things that have been rebooted into something better.
Yeah.
How would a Goose movie even work, Tristan?
Goose the Cat would be a 10-minute Disney Plus
talk. What are you talking about?
Maybe
would
like
Captain
a little
Marvel be in
8-minute
it?
cartoon, but like
Goose the Cat would be a holiday special.
No. And then but Sam. Okay.
Hawkman is very interesting because it doesn't have to be completely based on the version that we saw in Black Adam because he reincarnates. You can see different versions of him throughout history and slowly see how he uncovers a mystery throughout all of time. That sounds like a very interesting concept for a movie that you can also bring about like very different varied personalities of the same person, put in a very versatile actor into those parts.
And you don't think a duck having
Just did that with the Flash and it went horribly wrong. I don't want to see them try that again.
Yeah.
Let me go back to
don't even bring Hawkman back. And Alex, sorry.
I was
Layla,
gonna say,
who is Layla? I don't even remember Moon Knight. Moon Knight was the most forgettable show I've ever seen. Like my like, let's be serious. Who in the which actual MCU fan? I'm not MCU fan really. I'm like a decent fan, I guess. I watch all the stuff, but like I've never heard anybody socially talk about Layla. I've heard people talk about all these other characters.
Let me ask this: how many people in the mainstream knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy before their movie came out? Huh?
Probably not many.
That is fair, but Moon Knight is a property that I don't think went that well. Like that's a great character, but I feel like people were really disappointed by the Moon Knight show, and I feel like they want to get as far away from that property as possible.
Moon Knight was so mid, it hurt. Like
I didn't even watch it, but yep, agree with the criticisms.
Yeah, no, I'm being serious. I
muted
after like episode one was okay, and then like after it just fell off so hard. Like at least with like Howard the Duck, you're getting something interesting, you're getting something fresh, you're getting something that's completely different than what we've seen so far in MCU.
Okay, I want to quickly say, Jacob, like that, what you said made no sense. Like, I haven't seen the show, but I agree with a lot of criticisms. Then how do you agree with them? How is that possible? I mean, I mainly picked her because Moon Knight, I don't think there's a lot of disdain for that show. I mean, I agree that Marvel does fumble with their 6-episode series, and they need to learn from Peacemaker to just do 8 episodes instead. But the MCU worked best because it was the best ones were like, yeah, it's a superhero movie or show, but it's also this. And Moon Knight had an Indiana Jones vibe to it that I honestly thought was better than Dial of Destiny.
Right. We made a decision. This was probably the toughest we've had so far. We were between a couple names, but the person we decided to eliminate, unfortunately, it's been a pleasure, is going to be Kyle.
Well, thank you guys. Such a sadness. It's an honor to be back. But you know, sometimes it happens that way. When we get the Howard Duck movie, we'll all make a watch along for it. We'll do a little special League of Cinephiles watch along, or we'll do our director's commentary. You know, the Alex Helmer, Kristen French, Kyle Flynn commentary on Howard Duck.
We're now going to get to the final competitor of the day. Also, congratulations to Jacob and Tristan for surviving it the entire way so far. Let's see if they can do it once again in the next round as we get to the next competitor. And at the number 10 spot, representing the 5 Angry Men, it is Go the Cook
Brother!
Hey, what's up? Hey, what's good, everyone? I'm ready. I'm here with Notepad. I've memorized all the 3-point answers possible. We're covering We're gonna pick some ass in trivia. Let's do this. Jake,
I'm not sure this is trivia goal, but you know, let's if anything's better for you, we would have to see your answer.
No, I gotta go.
We're ready. We're ready.
Let's get to
Good to have
the
you here, brother.
next prompt. What is the best year for movies ever?
Ooh. I will go with 1994.
1976.
All right, screw it. I'll go with 2004.
Okay, bit of recency bias. I'm going 2014.
2000.
2000?
1994 is kind of like the 1939 of like the new era, and what I mean by that is in 1939 you had all these new movies that were ushering in a new form of cinema and a new wave, and I feel like that happened in 1994. You got so many new exciting filmmakers coming out. I mean, Pulp Fiction really established Quentin Tarantino as one of the big filmmakers of his generation. Shawshank Redemption was a huge film that year. You had The Lion King. I mean, there were so many films that really went on to define the 90s and push cinema forward. And a lot of the films in the 21st century owe a lot to 1994.
Taxi Driver, Carrie, Rocky, Network, All the President's Men. These are very important films that each define different parts of like revolutionizing film in each like different genres throughout history. And I think that this is a very important like line that was crossed at that point, and I think it's made all the better throughout film.
I picked 2004 because there's a lot of defining movies of that era, specifically in franchise stuff. We got the best Harry Potter movie that year with Prisoner of Azkaban. We got the best Shrek movie in Shrek 2. We got great comedies like Mean Girls, Anchorman. We got The Incredibles. We got the last Godzilla movie where he's a guy in a suit. The beginning of the Saw franchise started there. And Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind is a very important movie where Jim Carrey expanded beyond just a goofy Jim Carrey performance.
All right, 2014. Maybe I'm gambling by going with such a recent year, but I think, over the last couple of decades, when you're watching new releases, and probably the last 10 years is the period we've all been watching new releases, you watch so many more, so it's harder for a year to stand out because you do end up seeing so many crap ones. But 2014, it's just endless, the amount of like 2010s classics that came out that year. I think I gave like 11 5-star ratings that year, and so many different genre-defining ones. Like Grand Budapest Hotel is still watched by everyone today. Gone Girl, one of Fincher's best films. Whiplash, the film that gave us Damien Chazelle, a man who would define so many years of the 2010s.
Okay, 2000 I think was a great transition year, and obviously because it was Y2K or whatever, but we had a mix of the old styles, the new, the art, and the genre. I mean, we had a new era of superheroes with X-Men. We had a grand epic like Gladiator. We had more artsy, auteur-driven films like Snatch, or genre classics like Remember the Titans. We had Castaway, or Almost Famous, Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, High Fidelity, Crouching Tiger. So many brilliant movies that I think are so different and just a wide range of audiences, which is exactly what I want to see today.
So what I'll say about 2004, I think if you look at the blockbusters that came out that year, it was a really great year. But if you look at more of like the Oscar prestige stuff, I mean, you had $1 Million Baby.
Crash won Best Picture.
That was 2005.
Yeah.
But 2004, you had
one in 05, but it came out in 04.
No, it didn't.
Or it's Letterboxd lying to me.
It premiered at TIFF,
Disregard.
But with 2004, you had $1 Million Baby. Sideways is great, but like if you look at those more prestige films, there's not as many classics there. Whereas I feel like the other years here, for the most part, I think have a wider array of films. And then 2000, I think, was kind of just coming off the heels of 1999. I feel like it was an extension of that year, and a lot of the technology and stuff that was coming out in 1999, I feel like 2000 was just an extension.
See,
okay, but you could also say that about 1976, because you also in 1975 you had like One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest, Jaws, Barry Lyndon. So you can't just. I feel like it's unfair to say one year is an extension of another year. A year is a year. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I would make an argument like you say. 2004 was a great year for blockbusters, but not so much for Oscar movies. To be honest, up until Everything Everywhere All at Once, in between that and Return of the King, all the Best Picture winners have just been basically trivia questions. Even though we like all these movies, or at least a good chunk of the movies that won Best Pictures in that time, nobody talks about them the way they do Return of the King or Everything Everywhere All
Have
at
you seen
Once.
The Departed? Have you seen No Country for Old Men? Have you seen Birdman?
And if you look at
Birdman, when was the last time anyone talked about Birdman?
Birdman's a great movie.
Every month.
I regularly watch Birdman. That is actually one of the best picture winners of that decade, which came out in 2014, by the way.
And the thing, 1994 had Pulp Fiction nominated. It had Shawshank. It had Forrest Gump. Those are three classics. Say what
but
you
that's
want about
before.
Forrest Gump.
I'm talking about the space of time between Return of the King and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I mean, There Will Be Blood was nominated. You had No Country for Old Men.
It didn't win, and again, it's a trivia question. Like, again, these are all good movies, most of them, not Crash, but nobody talks about them in the same pop cultural relevancy the way we do Return of the King and Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I think it's a huge mistake though, to base your whole argument on what came out that was connected to a franchise or that was connected to something that people just rewatch easily. Because I think it is important that Tristan brought up there are movies that were influential stylistically that took risks. I mean, Shrek 2 is awesome, but again, I think like in terms of movies that are have to see what are both. That I think some of the other years that we mentioned had more in common than 2004.
I will say this in defense of 2014, though. There was a better Godzilla movie that came out that year.
At the end of this round, we had to eliminate Mr. Robinson from the field of competition.
Oh. You could follow me on YouTube. I have 3 separate channels you could follow me on. There's my main movie and TV review channel, a newly created YouTube Shorts channel featuring like trailer reviews, out of theater reactions, individual TV episode reviews, and then trying to get this started up again, but my theme park and vlog channel called Alexander Robinson Travel Channel. If you go to the movie review channel...
Oh, I thought you said you were opening a theme park. I was like, what?
No.
So, at the end of this day of competition, here are the following survivors that will move on to day 2. We have, at the number 1 spot, the current champ, Jacob the Package Cunningham.
Oh, saying words. I feel great because I was worried, like, I didn't come in expecting to win, but I wanted to last a few rounds. So I think making it to the second day, I'm totally happy with my performance, and whatever happens tomorrow is just a bonus.
I don't know why I'm getting American Idol vibes from this.
I'm going to do so much with that recording contract. I'm definitely not going to be a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, I honestly cannot believe that I made it all the way. I thought I was going to make it like 1 or 2 rounds. I am getting American Idol vibes from this. This is crazy. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun today, and this was awesome. And yeah, I'm happy I made it to the end of the day. This is great.
Thank you to the people. Thank you to the judges. I love you. I'm so happy. Let's have another great day tomorrow. I'm so excited. Let's do this.
I came from poverty. No, I'm overjoyed that I even survived a round because in the last Battle Royale, I was in the opening and I lost, which I strongly disagreed with their choice, but it's okay.
All right, Jack, Luke, that's the end of day 1 of competition. We have the following results. Jacob, the champion at the number 1 spot, Tristan from the 3, Sam from the 9, and Gull at the 10 spot. Any surprises, gentlemen?
I mean, I'm glad that things are taking a different direction. You know, after the first couple rounds, it was starting to look like we might have another faction of 4 that might just run away with the first day. But no, we ended up having a few people come in, play a couple rounds, and have some exits. So it's definitely gotten much more. The arguments have gotten much more heated as we've gone on, and these players who have been able to play have kept this momentum going and have just been able to keep going. How they're able to translate that tomorrow is what's going to be most interesting to see.
Luke, big standouts from day 1.
It has to be Tristan for me. I guess we've forgotten just how good he can be. First, we see him in these less compacted Cinema Wars episodes. Let's say it was only 3 people, but here he's really been shining. I especially liked his Goose the cat pick. I think the way he finessed that to solidify himself into the next round. Only he can do that.
Yeah, I think we all expected Jacob to get this far, although he did have some trouble specifically with that comic book round. But Tristan, just crazy. He's never done this well in Cinema Wars since season 1 when he first started. So the fact that he's continuing that success after kind of a season where he hasn't had that much in Cinema Wars and trivia to celebrate, it's really great to see that he's been able to survive this long, and we'll see what he can do later on. Sam as well, a really good showing, his first time in the league, his first time in Cinema Wars, really strong 2 rounds. Can't say too much about Gall because he came at the end, but I will also say Mr. Robinson, also Kyle, who came back, showing why he's a really underrated Cinema Wars player. I think we saw that in season 1, the kind of when he played, but he had a really great showing as well, surviving, being a big part of that big 4. So yeah, just a great day of competition overall, folks. So that's going to end it for part 1 of our Cinema Wars Battle Royale. We only have more competitors from here. Make sure to check out part 2. I don't know when it releases, so I'll just cut this part out. But make sure to check out part 2 for the rest of competition as these 4 fight to continue on in the match, and we get a whole plethora of other great Cinema Wars movie debating players. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks again for everyone watching. We will see you all soon, guys, whether that's Cinema Wars or trivia, or especially in part 2 of this match. Take care. Ciao.